Well, I appreciate you guys being here. I mean, I know obviously the weather could have kept a lot of people out. So, for the record, I want this to be like a dialogue, right? This is not like a presentation where I'm up here talking. Like, if there's questions, like I prefer it to be more like that. I'm gonna go through the slides and stuff like that. But other than that, let's just talk about what's going on. So obviously today's about like, hey, how do you negotiate a deal? The main topic is like, what is a motivated seller? And a seller who's compelled by circumstances or emotions. Those are the main two things of how you find a motivated seller. It's either a circumstantial situation or an emotional one, and it's that they want to or are able to sell a property for less than the market value under normal circumstances. And for a seller to be motivated, there's got to be something going on with their lives, right? It's one of those two, and I will say, based on our experience, we find some emotional people. Most of them are circumstantial, right? Based on what's going on in their life, whether it's divorce, death, inherited a property, XYZ. That is where we have really found most of our deals. And I think the key to remember, hey, how's it going? Come on in. We're in the problem solving business, right? We're not in the take advantage of somebody business, but like if we can help you get from A to B, and that's what you want to do, like we can be that one-stop solution, whatever that might be. That's really the approach that we take. And it has really, I would say, I think coming from like a place of contribution, like if you go in there and someone thinks that you're just here to take advantage of them, or like, hey, what is the lowest you're willing to take for this property? That's not going to play very well, right? It's more so of how can I help you get to your goals, and whatever that might be, I can be your solution. And I'll say, like, just like as a step back from that, like an example, like there was one property in Fairfax. This was probably like 6 years ago. It was a townhouse. Didn't realize that the guy had inherited it based off of his parents passing. They passed like in like a year time period. And he called us and was like, hey, I really want to sell this townhouse in Fairfax. And we were like, all right, well, and it was actually in pretty good shape, right? And after walking through, I'm like, all right, well, what do you want for this? Like, what would make your life easier? And he said, look, man, I live in Cleveland. If I can get $150,000 out of this, I'm happy it's paid off. I had to bite my tongue, and I was like, and I was like, well, we'll have to think about it. Let me make a call and come. I felt like I was like a used car salesman. I didn't want to take advantage of him, so I was like, how do I play this and be above board? So I went out and I just talked to myself. I didn't call anybody. I was like, all right, Sean, how are we gonna play this? And I walked back in like 15 minutes later, and I said, hey man, I can give you the 150 cash today, or we could put it on the market, and I think you could probably get like 225 to 250, honestly, as is. And he said, I'll take the 150 cash today. And I was like, dude. So we did that. We put 60 grand into it, and we sold it for 425. So it was like one of those things where it's like, you never know what's going in on somebody's life, like what's going on, but like we truly wanted to be like, hey man, I'll give you that, but you can get this, and they were willing to take it. So it was kind of eye-opening to me. And again, the two biggest motivators are circumstances and emotion. So circumstances, right? The seller may be motivated by one of the following: property condition. It could be abandoned, needs work, fire, water, mold damage. I'll go back to that. Unsellable, no one but an investor would buy it. Finances, can't afford repairs, moved or has 2 mortgages. Time frame, external pressure, pre-foreclosure, needs cash flow. Convenience, absentee landlord, out-of-state inheritance. That's what that guy was, right? He was just like 150 grand. He was living in Cleveland. That was good for him. He was happy with that. What we have found is outside of that, which in my opinion is like a one-off, like that's hard to find. Now, there are ways that you can market to people that are inheriting properties, and if they're living in I would say areas that are less expensive than here, they're very open to being able to be negotiable for what they're willing to take, because 150 in Cleveland buys a great home, right? Where here it was a townhome that we knew could be almost $500,000. I would say property condition and unsellable and finances outside are the top 3 that we typically see. So abandoned, needs work. we recently, like 2 years ago, did a project down in Alexandria. A guy called us and we went to his house to meet him. He had got, the house was actually condemned and he was still living in it. So he decided that he was not gonna vacate. He was living in it even though Fairfax County had condemned it. And he was like, hey man, I've been living here for 65 years. I'm not leaving. But it's now time. My daughter said I have to go. Obviously the house needs a lot of work. It was not abandoned, but it lived like it was. He was like, the toilets weren't working, so he was defecating in like, you know, those little like buckets. And there were certain like holes, like leaks coming through the roof that were like getting caught throughout. And it was just like, man, like this is a tough situation. Like, how are you living like this? Like, how can we help you? And he was like, man, I just want X for it. So he wanted $450,000 for it. It was one of those mid-century moderns down in Holland Hill off of like the GW Parkway going south. And we actually ended up giving him $475 because we were like, dude, we want to do right by you, and here's an extra 25 grand to get you on your way. And that was a great deal because we ended up putting 150 into it, and I think it sold for 850. So it was like one of those where, you know, we were able to help him, but the property condition, that is something that is obviously circumstantial. Unsellable, I would say this is the unsellable, that's something where you can find on market. Hey, how's it going, man?
Good, sir.
That you can find on market or off market, right? We still buy half of our renovation projects for us and our clients on the market. We literally just put one house under contract on the resale aspect of it yesterday. It was an estate sale that hit the market. They went on the market. It was a duplex in Delray. They went on at 688. They were on for 8 days. So we knew when they made it through the first weekend and had no offers, we knew it was in play. Because if something doesn't sell first weekend, as you know as an agent, like in today's market, something's wrong. It's either price or condition or both, right? So we decided, all right, let's make a run at this. They went on at 688. We wrote originally at 540, and then they said, actually, we have 2 other offers that just came in today. Surprise, surprise, at the same number that you guys did. So we're asking for highest and best. We decided to go up to 561. We ended up getting it. And we put about 145, 150 grand into this duplex because it needed everything. We had to waterproof it. We had to put a couple like structural piers in the basement because it was caving in a little bit, and then obviously just gutting everything. And we went on we originally underwrote it at 825 as being the outsell. We bought it back in November, so it was like a 4 or 5 month like renovation process and then get on the market. We went on the market on Thursday. We ended up getting 3 offers, which honestly in today's market isn't great, right? You would expect to get way more than that, like 5, 10 plus with the constraints in supply. But we got 3 offers. We were able to leverage them against one another. We ended up selling for 907. We went on at 850 and got 907 after buying it at 561. Yeah, you know, but it was awesome. It's one of those where it's like, don't forego on market properties. Yeah. I think that's the key to that, honestly, is like people think that if it hits the market, it's not going to be worthwhile. 90% of the homes that hit the market will not be worthwhile, but that 10%, there's a lot of gold in there because they are unsellable. And if they're lasting on the market for a week or two, there's a lot of opportunity, in my opinion. And then, you know, obviously the convenience piece of it, we target in our marketing a lot of absentee landlords, right? People that are living, again, in those other states that they just have something. And we tend to we market towards people that have owned something for 10, 20 plus years and that are not living locally because they tend to not necessarily know what's going on here. They may be tracking it, but they really don't know the speed and frequency of what's going on. And that is, for us, has been a great way to be able to find deals. And on top of that, right, you're talking about inheritance and estate, going back to the Cleveland aspect, that was one, but making friends with estate attorneys or finding out what's going on. Now, a lot of estate attorneys, they have a common practice of, if someone comes to us, like if my parents passed and they went to an estate attorney, that estate attorney is gonna put their house on the market and typically they have to be on for 7 to 10 days. Now, if you can get to those folks before they hit their estate attorney, that is a gold mine. That is an absolute gold mine. It's just how can you be that squeaky wheel that the estate attorney says, oh, Terry is going to be the guy that's like, I'm going to go to him because he's going to give me what I want or be able to solve my need for this family. Because if it hits the market, they typically have, like banks did back in the day, a certain time period of you got to be on the market for this long to have market exposure to make sure they're not underselling it. But if you can be first to it, that is a huge, huge play. The emotion side of it, right? Like the owner no longer loves the house and is emotionally detached. Like they just want to get it out of their life. They just like, I don't want this house anymore. It's a cause of problems. So like condition, they either have no time, money, or desire to make the repairs. They're embarrassed. Like they're not willing to show it because they know that they have a hardship or the condition or hoarding. So I will say, we have two different businesses. We have the real estate side of things, and then we have the investment side of things. We have a lot of people that call us to sell their home or their family's home, and they do not want to go on the market because they're like, I don't want my neighbors to see how my parents were living, period. Or I don't want my neighbors to see how I've been living. And they're willing to take a big haircut because of strictly embarrassment, and it's sad, but it's a reality of life where if you can find those people to be, you can't just put a filter in who's embarrassed of their home, right? Like you can't target that. However, there are a lot of people out there, and it's one of those things where that is a huge value add. And again, we're not trying to take advantage of anybody, but like, how can we help you solve your problem, and how can we be your solution, whatever that might be? So that has been a huge aspect of like deals that we have been able to find. Emotional distress, unfortunately, I have been divorced, so I know what that is like. Divorce and estate attorneys, in my opinion, are probably one of the best lead sources for everybody here in the room. Now, getting into them is tough, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease. How can we stay in front of these people? How can I nurture a relationship? How can I create some sort of value add for them to where when something happens, you call me, or you get a new case, you call me. Let me at least be a voice of reason, or at least another option to where I can say, hey, look, here's what we can do for you. Whether or not you take it or not a big deal, but like, please, like just bring it to us. We don't find a lot of bad rentals up here. I think like our tenant base, there are some, in my opinion, that's a needle in a haystack. Tenants up here tend to be a lot stronger. We have a handful of rentals down in the Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area, like the 757, which we are now starting to offload and transition that money back up here just because the tenant base is a lot different. We had a couple homes where, especially during COVID, all of our rental properties up here, the people paid. No issues, no problem. Out of the 7 properties we had down there, 5 of them stopped paying completely, and some of them just started having COVID parties. And when I mean COVID parties, we had a neighbor send us a video of one, and it was an absolute rager, and people were just busting out windows, and it was like, I was like, what is going on? And they hadn't paid for 6 months. So like, bad rentals is certainly a viable option. Up here, I think it's far and few between, but I think depending on the market that you play in, and not that we all only invest in this area, I think that's something that certainly is a segment of the market where you can find deals. So the seller motivated by circumstances needs the house sold, and the seller motivated by emotion wants the house sold. I think that is one of the biggest things. Like, that's a big takeaway, right? Like, circumstances and emotion are definitely different. So needing the house sold is something where it's like, I absolutely have to get this off my plate because I can't deal with this anymore. Wanting it sold, if you can find the people that want it sold, that is where you're going to find the best deals. What's going on, man? But by the way, Hamed, that's the flooring expert in the room. If anybody needs any flooring of any type, he's the man, hooks you up. So, Those are really the two main things. So once you start getting leads, right? The phone rings and you get a lead, like what do, right? Number one, build rapport. Okay, right? We're here to help people. We're here to solve problems, be friendly. How can I help you? What's going on? Tell me more. Like, just keep peeling back that onion, but also like come from a place of like being authoritative. You don't want to feel like we are not the ones on our heels. They called us for a reason. So like they're calling us for help. So we shouldn't feel like we are the ones of like, what do you need again? How can I do this? It's like, no, here's what we offer. Here's what we're doing. How can we help you? Da 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 da. I think that's a big step. Do any of you guys get leads coming in on a frequent basis or have calls coming in where you're vetting them? Does anybody have that type of business where?
So, in the past. Not right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, of everyone that has that, like, how do you guys typically qualify somebody when they come in or when the phone rings and it's like, hey, this is Mrs. Smith over here at 123 Main Street. I want to sell my house. Like, how do you guys kind of take it from there? Do you have like questionnaires like that you ask, or is it more of a feel thing?
Well, I try to get like how motivated they are in their time frame, because some people will call you and they don't even want to like move forward like 6 months out, you know. But some people are like, I'm ready to move in like a month. So it's like that's my main things, like time frame, motivation, and there's something else that I'm missing. But those are like the two main ones, I'd say.
Yeah, just trying to figure out, all right, is this like a hot lead, someone that wants to do something now, or is this going to be like a nurture that we're going to have to stay in touch with and figure out?
Exactly. That's what I try to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah. First, I think it's always good to thank them for calling. Like, thanks for giving me a call. And then always just ask them questions like, so would you be interested in selling your house and receiving an offer? And like, if we can come to an agreement, how soon would you like to sell your house? Like in the next 2 weeks or as far as like a month or two?
Yeah.
So see what they say from there, and try to see if they're motivated at all or like unreasonable.
No, that's great though. I feel like asking like, again, like we have an ISA team and they do very similar to that, where it's like, hey, if we gave you what you want today, would you be willing to sell? And then they say, it's a yes/no question, right? Like open-ended questions typically tend to be the best, but if you ask something that direct and you're like, hey, if we give you what you want today, are you willing to sell? And they say yes. Okay, what is that? Right? And then they're like, yeah, I don't know, you know. Or they throw out, most of the time they throw out a pie in the sky number and you're like, ooh, yeah. You know what? That may work. I'm not sure, but like I need to check, I need to walk the house and see what's actually needed to see if we can make that happen. So I think, again, like to your point, like kind of peeling back the numbers into yours, like building rapport and figuring out timing, like those are the two most motivating questions, is timing and what do you want, right? Like that's really all it comes down to. And then it becomes just a puzzle, like how do we figure this out? How do we come up with a win-win that you guys are happy and we're happy, right? We're all in it as real estate investors. We're all in it to make money. We're not in it for a drill build. I will say, unfortunately, last year we had a couple drill builds, and we had more than drill builds, where we bought some stuff back in April last year when rates were at 3%. They changed. Our contractor took longer than it should have, and we sold 2 houses in January that were on the market since like October. So one of them we lost $6,000, one we lost 94. We've done 255 flips and we had never lost money prior to that. So starting the year off $100,000 in the hole was not a fun feeling, but it was one of those where it's like market shifts and we could have done a better job of like underwriting and finding motivation to where we probably could have had some savings, but we thought the market was going to keep riding. So, you know, that's on us. But that's exactly what you do when the phone rings. And then obviously step 2 is like we talked about, determining motivation, right? After getting basic info, where are we going? How'd you hear about us? Is the house on the market? Which we can all do in a very quick search, right? You can do that on Redfin. We like to use Remind. Obviously, we have a real estate team, so we use the MLS. But if you have access to Remind, that's a great resource, in my opinion. It's a plug-in to the MLS, but you can also buy a subscription, I think, for $100 or $200 a year. I'd highly recommend that. How many offers have you had? Instead of like, have you had offers? I like to ask, like, open it, how many offers have you had? When they say 0, that is just even more so digging that rapport hole. Why are you guys selling? And then we like to start getting updates, right? Like we try to qualify as much as we can on the front end. Not every time does it work like this, but like our call center is supposed to be asking these questions. Some people say, I don't know, just come look at my house, right? If they say that, we'll go look at their house. But if we can get as much information as possible, if they're like, bathrooms, actually we did them 5 years ago, kitchen was 10 years, or actually everything's original, we haven't done anything, the basement floods every time it rains, whatever information you can get from like a construction standpoint is gold. Because then that allows us to like know, like, okay, this is what they're dealing with. They already know what the issues are. So then we're gonna, when we meet with them, we're just gonna continue to kind of, not in a way, pile on that of like, well, so you said every time this rains, you get 2 inches in your basement? Oh geez, like, you know what that causes? Mold starts to grow. We're gonna have to rip all of this out. We're gonna have to do this. Who knows where it's coming in from? Like, so these are questions that we have our team ask on the initial call. Now again, you're not always gonna get like a straight up answer on all of them, and that's okay, but you're trying to peel that onion back and figure out what's going on. What else needs to be fixed or be made is these, in my opinion, these ones here are the most important, from is my mortgage current to how much are you asking. So a lot of people, we have bought a handful of homes that are on a reverse mortgage, right? Or we have bought a handful of homes that I'm 3 months late and we have a foreclosure date in 30 days. Can you help me? Yes, we can. For the record, an offer stops the foreclosure process. If they send it to their bank, even if the offer is asinine, it makes 0 sense, right? They might owe $450 and we offer $300, it still stops the process, and then it allows us to negotiate with their bank. So that's something that is really good to know. Are you guys in foreclosure status? What's your lender contact? Are there any liens or judgments? How much is owed on the house? This is one thing that I will say, how much is owed on the house? 50% of the market doesn't know. They do not know, especially if it's an inherited property, an estate sale type of thing. A lot of people don't know that, especially if you're dealing with heirs that are afar, and they're just like, man, I don't know, man, my parents just died. I don't know what's owed. I think it's paid off. And then come to find out, all of a sudden, okay, actually they had pulled out a HELOC for $400,000 and the home is worth $300,000. How are we gonna deal with this? Like, put us in contact with your bank and we'll start the negotiations. But that's one thing. And then how much are you asking? That is one of my favorite questions, just because it gives you an idea of where they're at. I wanna know, are they realistic? Is it pie in the sky? Or are they looking to give it away and they absolutely don't care? Going back to the emotion, I just want this out of my life. I don't care. Here's what I think it's worth. Here's what I'm asking. And I will say, on that question, I think you can play it a couple different ways. We tend to try to come from a place of contribution, going back to like not wanting to take advantage of people. There are folks that give us numbers where we're just like, oh man, I feel like I'm stealing this, and I'll give you an extra 25, 50 grand. How about we do this? How about I give you $450? I know you wanted $400, but like we still know that if we put $150 into it, it's going to sell for $750 or $8. I'm happy with that, and I can sleep in peace at night. I think that's somebody. Everybody's got to answer that question themselves, and not that there's a right or wrong, right? Like, you're still solving a problem. If somebody says I want 300 and they could get 500 for it as it is, that's still a great wholesale. So it would still solve their problem. So script tip. We find that most people have a number in mind, and it helps us to find the right solution when we know where you're coming from. I think that's one of the biggest negotiating tips that you can have, right? He who speaks first typically loses, especially after you ask them a question. What do you want for the home? And I've been on appointments with other investors where they say, what do you want for the home? And immediately they jump into, because we're thinking that we could give you 525. And you're like, and you see that person, either their eyes perk up or they're like, what? You know, so like, let them talk. Let them talk. Like, silence is the master negotiator. It's okay to have awkward silence. You just gotta sit there, ask your question, sit back. And I've been in meetings where it feels like it's been 10, 15 minutes, but it's 30, 45 seconds of awkward silence, but you're like looking at somebody like, what do you want? You know, and you're like, and they're looking at you like nodding and smiling. You're like, who's gonna break? Don't break. Like, honestly, like that has saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, because sometimes they don't know. You know, they really don't know. And if they say that, they might say, I don't know. What do you think? And then that's where you come in and say, hey, look, here's our numbers. Here's what we think it'll sell for. Here's what we're gonna put into it. Here's the time that we're gonna hold it. This is the number that we would have to buy it for. And they say, that sounds good. And then you're like, damn, I should have gone 50 grand lower. You know, like that tends to happen. But I think that that's a great, you know, that is a great question to ask, is like, what do you want? Stop. Let them, don't negotiate with them without them saying something. He who gives the first number always comes from a place of unleverage, right? You want their number before you give them any number, because you don't know what they're gonna say. Step 3, make the offer, right? Again, be friendly but authoritative, determine motivation, and make the offer. We are a big proponent. We like to make the offer on the spot. A lot of people, we do all of our underwriting prior to going to the meeting. We know if we're gonna meet somebody that we have an offer that we're gonna give them, whether it works or not, we know what our number is. And I think that's the beautiful thing about real estate investing. The numbers don't lie, and don't try to finagle the numbers. You know what you need to buy it for. You can hope the market keeps going. It may not. It's a math problem. If you have dialed in your construction numbers, or even if you don't have dialed in your construction numbers, but you know this can sell for X, take that 70% off, and if you can buy it at 70 cents on the dollar, a lot of people say if you can buy it 70 cents on the dollar minus renovation cost, right? Typical renovations are 80 to 120 grand. Call it 100 grand a house is roughly what you can get in and out of without adding the square footage. But if you can buy something for 70 cents on the dollar in today's market, you are absolutely gonna make money. It's just a matter of how much. If the market continues, then you ride the wave. If it plateaus, then you're hitting your pro forma. If it comes down a little bit, you're still gonna make something, you're just not gonna make what you were expecting. So that's totally fine. But, so again, like if you're at a computer and have a quick way to develop an offer, that's where I recommend Remine. Remine is like it aggregates Zillow, Redfin, First American, which is the largest title insurance company in the world. So all of those certain platforms have their own algorithms that kind of come up with a estimated value, right? Like it's certainly not market value, but it gives you at least a rule of thumb to play within. And that's where that is what we use, and we teach our team to use at like surface level. And then if you're away from a computer, right, ask them to call back or make an offer based on your knowledge. Again, going back to the 70% of ARV is after repair value minus renovation. Typically, we're saying 50 grand or 100 grand across the board is usually roughly what we're doing if we're not adding the square footage. And then again, the next one is speak loses. If you can even get close to your number, and I'll be honest, sometimes if we can't get close to our number, we'll still go. I'll still go because I want to look them eye to eye, and I want to be like, hey man, like, what? how can I help you, right? Even if it's not, I can't buy your house, maybe I've got someone that can pay more, maybe it's someone that wants to buy a rental in your area. Like, I can still figure out a way to monetize this, but I might not be able to buy it and flip it, but that's okay. But like, if you can get close to your number, make the appointment. And I do think that one thing that we make a big press on is having that agreement with you, right? If you are going to the house, the last thing you want to do is spend an hour there with somebody talking, hearing about their Aunt Brenda who did XYZ in Richmond, and you're like, okay, cool, like, we've been doing this, so about the house. By the way, what do you want? Okay, I want X. If I can do this, I'll sell today. All right, I have a contract here. I'll give you X. Like, let's ink it, and like, let's make it, like, let's formalize it. That's one thing that we like to do. I think doing the two-step where you meet them, you give them all the information, like, they're on a fact-finding mission as well, right? They just want to get information out of us. So they're trying to figure out, okay, you're an option, and here's what you're willing to offer, either option A, B, or C, but I don't need to make a decision today. We do like to go for the hard sell in a respectful way. Like, we're not out, didn't hold a gun to your head and make you sign anything, but at the same time, like, if we're here and we agree on this, if it's a handshake deal, like, let's just put pen to paper and make it happen. We have found that has made a world of difference in terms of conversion and just moving the needle. Like, you want to keep moving that sales cycle forward. And then obviously dropping down here where it says, you know, if you don't like the house, price, or seller, ask if you can refer them to someone who might be in a better position, agent, attorney, investor, you know, figure out a way to monetize the lead. I think that's one of the biggest things. Obviously, we're all a community here, and I am not going to be the solution for every single person that I meet. However, they might want to build. Talk to him. They might want to build. Talk to him. They might want to do X, Y, or Z. Talk to her. Like, how can we figure out how we can make those connections and still make it a win-win for everybody involved, including, you know, the potential client? And then obviously step 4 is like setting the appointment. Once you set the appointment, this is the biggest thing. Make sure all parties that have to sign are available. I can't tell you how many appointments we have been on where we've gone through the whole rigmarole of building rapport, walking through the house, talking about X, Y, and Z. They're happy, we're happy, we agree on a number. Oh, my brother's actually the power of attorney. Or, yeah, this is my wife's family's house, so she has to sign. And you're like, dude, really? And then what happens from there is they typically 9 out of 10 times it doesn't happen because not everyone is there. So when you are booking that appointment, making sure that everybody is there and it's all above board, and it's like, are the decision makers going to be there? Is everybody that has to sign, are we all in agreement and we're all going to be on site? Because, like, we don't want to waste our time or theirs, especially ours, right? Like, if we're doing this, trying to be their solution, and then they have a aspect of, oh, sorry, 2 of the 3 are here, but we have to go talk with our brother who's, you know, in another state to make sure we get his blessing, it gets squashed 9 out of 10 times. And then you're back to the negotiating table. So that is super important in my opinion. And again, that's just a qualifying question. Who has authority to sell the home? Me. Oh, nice. So you have power of attorney for your parents? Yes. Is there anybody else that has power of attorney? Any other siblings? No. I have full power of attorney. I am the executor of the estate. I'm the one that'll be signing. You just want to make sure that you get all of that. Now, granted, I will say a small percentage of the time you might not get a truthful answer, but it's something just to be aware of. And I think that's a question that is very much worth asking, because if not, time is our most valuable commodity. You don't want to be going on appointments that is just kicking a tire down the road and, oh, it's nice, cool, I went on another appointment, but nothing happened. Who cares? Like, you know, right? Like, it didn't help me, it didn't help you. Like, let's not do that. So that is a very, very important question to ask. So when you're at the house, and if the seller is there, I love, and they're like, do you want me to step outside, or do you want to? I'm like, no, please don't step. Take me on the tour. Please tour me of your house. And then that's when, again, we go through that same qualifying questions. Everything that we had our team or ourselves that we asked on the phone, we're re-asking those exact same questions, right? We're just going through the same repetition, boom, 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 boom. And then one thing that I like is number 2 and number 3. We are very, very direct in, oh, I noticed there's a big leak here in the roof. How long's that been happening? Oh, there's mold here in the basement. Is that new, or has that been going on for a long time? Because, I mean, mold remediation isn't cheap. So, like, you know, we're gonna have to, whoever buys this is gonna have to treat that. Asking those type of questions, like, again, just gets them into the framework of, yeah, this needs a lot of work, right? Like, shit, all right. They knew it already, but you're just like regurgitating those same questions over and over. And again, repetition matters. And then again, make your offer and your pitch. We always say, hey, we are a cash offer. We'll close in 7 days, completely as is. By the way, you can leave. Your parents that have all their stuff here, you can leave whatever you want. By the way, if you need more time than 7 days to get out the sentimental things, the stuff that you want, your belongings, your family heirlooms, take your time, not a problem at all. We'll take everything else and we'll dispose of it. We used to say trash out, and people were like, what? You're gonna trash out? No, we'll dispose of it. We're going to donate what we can to be reused. You know, that type of language goes a long way. You know, words matter, right? Like people don't think that, but words absolutely do matter, especially for the emotional people, right? If it's circumstantial, not a problem, but the emotional ones, especially those, if it's in the family, it's like, we're not just gonna trash your house. Like, we are gonna go ahead, we're gonna make sure this goes to use, whatever can, but I want you to get out whatever you can, and we will incur the cost of everything. Always have your contract there ready to sign. And one thing we do, we always bring a combo box in the event that we do get that signature there and then. And we put the combo box, and me or our runner will take a key. Hopefully the seller has an extra copy. We just drop it in there. If not, we'll just go straight to Home Depot, make a copy, bring it back. Here's your key. Here's our key in our combo box. We're gonna have our contractors come so we can get everything moving. And obviously a lot of us do wholesaling, so we always set the precedent that one of our partners might be at closing, right? It might not, you might not see me. In today's world, right, everything is a split closing. Buyers and sellers are not sitting at the table together, which is a great thing. Back in the day, I remember there were very contentious moments because they were sitting there. And I mean, we have a real estate team where we help about 200 families buy and sell a year, and then we have our flipping business. 10 years ago, I have been sitting at the settlement table many a times, and people are like, F you, mother trucker, da-da-da-da, and you're like, what? Like, relax, man. Like, what are we doing? So split settlements are great. They are a great thing, but again, I think just from like a optic standpoint, being like, hey, my partner might be at closing, your partner could be somebody that you don't know who you're assigning the contract to. They don't need to know that. Like, but just kind of coming from a place of authenticity is important. And then going to, seller psychology, right? A truly motivated seller will try to sell you the house. And I mean, from a real estate standpoint, an agent standpoint, and even just the investment. Well, you know what? This is where we had all of our cookouts. Yep, nice. That's a nice spot for cookouts. Doesn't matter. That zero value add. That doesn't matter. Well, this is where we came back after so and so's high school graduation. It was a great family party, and you're like, I'm glad you guys were able to enjoy that here. But like that doesn't matter. Like, so motivated sellers, when they start giving that type of information, when they start telling stories about the home or their experiences in the home, you know that they are trying to sell you on it. And it's one of those things where you're like, all right, like nod, be nice, but again, that doesn't make this house any more sellable to the next family that's gonna buy it, right? Or that's gonna scrape it and build on it. Like it's irrelevant, you know. But again, hearing them, listening to them, and playing the game is important. And then, you know, what it says here, try negative selling. This sounds like a really nice house. Why do you need help selling it, right? Like you're kind of playing on their emotions, where it's like, if it's this nice, if you guys have this many memories here, or X, Y, and Z, why'd you call us? And be quiet. Because I just need it gone. I just need this out of my life.
Brings them back around to their motivation again, reminds them of themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And it's one of those things where it's like, that is one of my favorite lines, because anytime anyone tries to sell us, like, put it back on them, and then they're like, wait, yeah. I get back to the root cause. Why are we here? It's not because you had a high school graduation 15 years ago. What do you need? How can we help? And what's the deal? And then they're usually like, I just need to get out of here, man. Like, it's been 2 years since my parents passed. It's been vacant. I'm over it. You know, we've had a lot of great memories, and it's time to move on. And you're like, all right, how can we help you do that? What do you want for it? And then, boom, you're just continuously like walking through that, and people open up, man. We're all humans, right? Like, again, we're not here to take advantage of people. We're here to help them, but like, how can we help them in a way that's also helpful to us? I can't give you market value for this. I can't buy this for what you think it's worth once it's fixed up, because it's not fixed up. So like, what are we gonna do here? How do we bridge that gap? And a lot of it is just those open-ended questions. And being someone that's been in that seat, you think this, I thought this was cheesy like 10 years ago. It works, 100% works, because if I was in those shoes, like, that would work on me, because it's a authentic, genuine way of going about it, where it's like, all right, you want 100, I'll give you 50, right? It's not, that's not what it is. It's like, all right, it sounds like a really nice home. It sounds like you guys have had great memories here. Why are you guys selling? And they're like, and then shut up, let them talk. Don't continue the conversation. Like, that's your question, and stop. And let them tell you exactly why they're doing what they're doing, and then pivot from there. But I think that's one thing that, yeah, it works, and highly recommended. I mean, what do you guys, so those out there that have been on these type of appointments, obviously you've done some wholesales and stuff before. How would you say you played that in the past, or like, what was the situations that you've dealt with in terms of?
Yeah, it's all in their it's all in their motivation. You know, some people, you get the calls and they're like, I want to sell my house, and you're like, okay, do you really want to sell it to me, or do you really want to sell it on market? You know, do you want to go through 3 months of, you know, whatever it is, till you come back around to the spot where you're like, okay, now I actually do want to sell it, and I do want it gone. I mean, it's all in the motivation, and just trying to get them to understand where they are. I like what you were saying about, you know, put the number that you want to sell for, put it into words. Now put your motivation into words for yourself. You know, and some people completely know that, and some are they just don't know it quite yet. I mean, I remember one I was talking to where they were kind of considering selling, and they had come across, you know, one of my ads and so they reached out, but they weren't really like super motivated to sell. They were just looking at options, you know, and you want to give them the options that are going to make them happy. You want to guide them to the way that's going to be best for them. And I think they end up selling on market and getting a decent deal for it. And, you know, I was able to kind of just guide them toward that, because no matter what I said or what I did, they were never going to let go of that and go with my route, because it wasn't for them. You know? And so just kind of guide and just kind of keep that motivation in front of them, and and give them the best option for what it is that they're looking for.
Yep.
So, but yeah, this is all, I mean, it's perfect.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah. You've done this way more than I have, obviously, but it's great seeing the reinforcement and tons of new stuff that I hadn't thought about before, so.
Oh, for sure. And again, like, we're all humans, right? Like, we all, at the end of the day, like, no matter, whenever I'm buying something today, like, I want help.
No.
Should I use this tile? Should I use that tile? Should I do this or that? Whatever it is, or actually, can you help me with X, Y, or Z? Like, I want help, and I think everybody wants options. If you can give people a menu of options, hey, you know what? I can buy it for X. If not, somebody else might be able to buy it for Y. If not, I know somebody that can maybe help you sell it for Z. Like, we can help you do whatever. So like, how do we get to that, the finish line, and make sure that we help you where we're all getting compensated for whatever we're doing, and make it a win-win, right? Like, we're a big proponent of everything being a win-win, and I think that's a big, if you can come from a place of contribution where it's like, hey, look, I'm honestly here trying to help you, and I think being transparent is very important. Like, a lot of people, I think that's where, like, knowing your numbers is extremely important, because if it's like, I can walk through a house and in my head I'm doing math and I'm like, okay, this bathroom, that's gonna be about 10 to 11 grand. These hardwood floors are probably gonna be about 8. Finishing this basement that's unfinished is probably gonna be about 25 to 30. When I can start adding it up, and then I'm like, here's our numbers within a 10% differential, and being able to like talk at that and say, here's our numbers, here's what we can do, but if this doesn't work, we have other people that might be able to do something else that could fit your needs. Like, that's kind of what we're looking at. I think that goes a very long way in terms of just being able to, provide value.
Yeah.
And gain trust, and you gain trust by being transparent, genuine, authentic, and providing value. Outside of that, it really, like, what are we doing, right? Like, anybody can rip off grandma. I'm not trying to do that, because I want to sleep in peace at night. I'm not trying to be like, oh shit, man, I got a great deal, but I feel like a piece of shit. I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing that.
I think it makes a big difference too, like what you're saying, providing that value. That's what it is. We get paid for value. We don't get paid for our time. We don't get paid for our effort. We get paid for the value we provide.
Yep.
And so when you're able to go to a seller who maybe isn't exactly sure what it is they want, and say, okay, this is the value I can provide, and help to guide you to get the best deal for you, and if it helps me too, then you have the possibility that they're going to take that experience and they're going to talk about it with somebody else, and now you've got a word of mouth marketing that you couldn't pay for in a way.
Totally.
Well, and I know that happens less than in what it is that we do, but sometimes.
No, but you never know where it could lead, right? Like, I think that's the one thing, and we come from it from a kind of a unique standpoint, having a traditional real estate team and then having the flipping, wholesaling, building side of things. But the truth of the matter is, 100 people that I don't know, if not more. And if I do right by you, you could refer me to one person that needs X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
They might need a kitchen, they might need flooring, they might need a new build, they might need whatever. But if I can then help that need, even though I might not make money off of it, they then know 100 people that you don't know and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it can grow exponentially very quickly. And I think coming from a place of contribution is really like kind of like our core, and then it's just a matter of like, all right, like, granted, we're all in business to make money, right? No one is doing this. We are not in this for a nonprofit. This is not what we're doing. But I think that's very important. So, I guess obviously we have time, I think we have this for like the next 15, 20 minutes or so. So I always want to make it fairly quick to where we can have time for either Q&A. For the record, if anybody has any questions that we want to just like fire off to me or the entire group, like, please, let's do that now. And then we want to spend some time just to be able to network and to meet everybody and hopefully make some contacts where we can all make money together.
Yeah, so what are like the best areas around here to like kind of I guess wholesale in my case, cause yeah, I mean, yeah, just moved, so.
Yeah.
Trying to see like.
So, that's a great question. I would say a lot of the wholesalers that we are buying from and that tend to have like the biggest deal flow, you're seeing a lot in like PG and Montgomery County and like Prince William County. It inside the Beltway, like Fairfax County and in, has been very tough. It's super competitive. Pricing's very high. So we've bought, for us and our clients, we have bought, I think, like 25 to 30 wholesales this year, and I would say half of them are in Maryland and the other half is like in Prince William County. Yep. But that's not to say that you can't find good wholesale deals here, depending on like what your filters are and like, you know, how you're zeroing in on it. But I think if you're casting like a wide net, I would go to the more like affordable areas as opposed to trying to move $1 million lot in Arlington, because all the builders, everybody there is they're all sending mailers and they're all doing their thing, so it's way more competitive.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I was driving through Vienna the other week. You can't touch anything there for less than 1.5. I mean,
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, like for the new builds and stuff,
Oh, yeah.
or even well, and that's the thing, man. Like, I would also say, like, make a network with agents. Like, to be honest, like we have our own agent team ourselves, but like we have recently bought in the last 90 days. I think we've bought like 6 houses from other agents, like 4 for ourselves and 2 for our clients, just because we've been networking with them. So agents, in a way, are wholesalers in and of themselves. If you think about it, like, you know, I think they're very synonymous. It's different because wholesalers don't have a real estate license and they're not putting houses on the market, but there's a lot of houses that are trading hands off market. You know, we've been fortunate enough we've helped about 120 families already this year buy and sell, traditional real estate wise, and about 25% of those have traded hands off market, just because of how constrained the supply is. Like it's a very tight market, so things are trading hands off market. And a lot of agents, to be honest, 9 out of 10 agents don't know what a deal is. So if they're like, you know, they're going through thinking like, I'm gonna sell this beautiful home, I'm gonna be this extravagant listing agent, and you're like, and they go to a listing appointment, you're like, oh, this is a piece of shit, and you're like, yeah, but I'll buy it. Like, you know, hit me up. Like, and those agents typically have a handful of agents that they will hit up and say, I have a dog that I don't think is going to sell, even though it would, and they're willing to give it away because they truly don't understand value or the market dynamics at play.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so I mean, part of like the value, you know, that you provide to like agents, I know there's a lot of like creative financing, like strategies. Do you see those like working a lot better in this market than just like, you know, cash?
You like seller financing or assumable stuff?
Too, yeah.
Man, I'd be lying if I said that we're like a expert in that. We've done a couple, and like we're working on a couple. I think like the assumable loans, like if you're looking for like rental properties or something like that, and for the record, even if you have a conventional loan, you can assume a VA or FHA loan. Now that seller forgoes that portion of their VA or FHA, so they can't use that again, or that portion of it. But like we have some folks that we just had a deal down in Alexandria that we were working on. We didn't get it, but it was interesting. We thought about buying it as a rental property. It was a townhouse down in Lynn Haven, right off of the Route 1 corridor near Del Rey, right across from the new Potomac Yards Metro. The seller had a $450,000 VA loan at 2.25%. He wanted $700 for it, which was fair market value. Now, if we or one of our investors bought it, when you assume somebody's loan, you have to bridge the gap. So they wanted 7, so someone would have to put down 250, but you're then catching that $450,000 loan at 2.25% when today's rates are 6.5 to 7, right? So like the cash flow would have been phenomenal, especially with the upside of the area. So there's a lot of ways that you can get creative that way. In terms of subject to, we have some clients that are working on a few, but like I think you want to get an attorney involved, to be honest, like just to make sure like the legalities are 100% locked down, because there's a lot of moving parts in that, and I would be like kind of speaking out of class if I said I knew exactly what I was doing with that, because I do not. But I know that there's opportunities there, and a lot of people are doing it.
Yeah, it's like a whole class thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Whole university.
Yep.
It's, yeah.
Yep.
Question. So, 'cause I ran into this a couple times, where basically, so what happens when you find a potential rehab project, right? You skip trace the number, you find the owner's name, and it says possibly deceased. Has that ever happened to you?
Yep.
And then so where do you go? Because I've just given up on deals because I don't know how to find like where the property goes to next, like stuff like that. And I was seeing if you knew something about that.
It depends on the state. Sometimes it'll go straight to probate. Like my wife's uncle just passed. He lives in Montgomery County. He didn't have a will. No heirs, no nothing. It's going straight to probate, and that's like a 3 to 4 month process.
Right.
If there are heirs, I think there are ways that you can find them. I would have to talk to like our operation manager to figure out exactly how we can do that. But if we want to connect, I'd be happy to
Yeah, for sure.
like put you in touch with them to kind of figure out like what our steps are. I don't know exactly how they do it, but I know that it can be done.
Gotcha. All right, cool.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Jump in.
I had a question, just when you were talking, you were saying an offer stops the foreclosure, right? I imagine a lot of people in foreclosure would hear about that, like, how long does it stop it for?
Until they stop negotiating it, to be honest. Until the bank says, no, we're not taking this, and then they just hit the start button and it keeps going forward. But and that's the beautiful thing about a short sale and pre-foreclosure is you can halt the process. All the seller has to do is take a tangible offer to their bank, and then that stops it for the time being. Doesn't mean it's gonna stop it forever or that it's gonna work, but what we have found in those situations is 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100 times is that bank then comes and says, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we see what you're doing. They want to continue the foreclosure process, and then the bank will counter us and they'll say, hey, you can sell it for $575 instead of the $400 that you have an offer for. So then you start negotiating with the asset manager at the bank, and then it's like, okay, how can we meet in the middle ground? Typical foreclosure, from what I've been told, is like 50 to 60 grand is what the bank incurs on a cost perspective. And then are they gonna recoup that on the market? You know, so then it's a matter of like, all right, like, do you wanna make a deal here or not? I would say it's a coin toss, honestly, on if that happens. But I will say, like, we have been targeting pre-foreclosures because here's the thing too. In today's market, in pre-foreclosures, 42% of homes are paid off, and like 70% of homes have equity, right? Unless you bought in the last 12 months, 24 months, you should have equity unless you've tapped into it and took out home equity lines of credit, home equity loans, or whatever. So there's equity there. So maybe because Mr. and Mrs. Smith can no longer make their payments because of life circumstances, right? They still might have 150 grand of equity, and they really don't need to be foreclosed on, but they can then be able to negotiate and give you a price where, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you guys are going to foreclosure. Do you want to lose your home and lose all of your equity? Or would you rather walk away with 75 grand in cash and sell it to us, and then let us do what we need to do to renovate the home and sell it on the market? So pre-foreclosures, in my opinion, is something that is a segment of the market that is something we should all be playing in, to be honest with you, because today pretty much everybody has equity. The real estate market has been on an absolute tear, and unless you bought it in the spring, no one's underwater unless they've borrowed against it and borrowed against it and borrowed against it. So like people have equity, like that shouldn't be an issue. Now, whether or not they can make their payments, that's a different scenario, right? They may be incapacitated. They might have had life circumstances that just, they got bankrupt for a business or whatever. But like almost everybody has equity in their home. So how can we be that bridge that stops them from going to foreclosure, crushing their credit, coming up with a win-win?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I have another question. So, I've been talking to, like, I've been going to a lot of investor meetups and stuff because I don't have a lot of capital yet to like actually invest myself, but I've been like really good at like finding deals. And what I'm starting to notice is like a lot of investors don't like on-market deals. So what I've been trying to do is like find off-market deals, but I was trying to see if there was something I'm missing, because like I've gone cold calling like all not all day, but for like at least 2 hours a day I cold call like off-market properties. And then sometimes if I have time, or if I'm driving by, I see like a house, I'll go door knock. And then what else? Sometimes I go for like the Zillow for sale by owners,
Yep.
and see if they would entertain a cash offer under list price. But I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I'm missing that could possibly get me like more off-market opportunities.
It sounds like to me that you just need like a bigger investor network
Yeah.
that will buy that stuff, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because like if there's actual value there, whether it's on market or off market, dude, come to us. I'll buy it.
All right, cool.
We'll buy anything and everything.
Yeah.
Like, and we can introduce you to others that will as well. So if you're willing to do that, which for the record, 1% of people are willing to do everything that you just said.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, like that'll play all day long, and there's value there, and you'll be able to find the needle in the haystack.
Gotcha.
And for the record, like, and keep in mind, like, right, like you don't have to necessarily have the equity or the margin to flip or build. We have hundreds of people that are looking to buy a rental portfolio. They're fine taking something where I don't need equity. I just want cash flow, right? Or, so, you can take a multi-prong approach to it. And like, if you're doing that, like you're gonna find deals. And I think for the people that say, I don't want on-market deals, they don't know what they're talking about, because we have bought half of our deals for us and our clients since 2008 on the market. Those have actually been some of the best deals we have bought. So like, I think how you're approaching it is 100% the right way. And then it's just a matter of making sure you have a big enough buyer pool that you can move it to. And that's one thing that we do is like, because we find stuff on and off the market. Again, going back to that house that we said in Delray that we just sold yesterday, that we put under contract. It came on the market at $688. It was on the, and this was literally in November. It came on at $688. I was like, they overshot the market completely. Day 8, we wrote an offer at $540. 2 other people wrote at $540, and then he asked for highest and best. We got it at $561. We put $150,000 into it. We just sold it yesterday. 3 offers over the first weekend. We went on at $850. It got bid up to $907. That was an on-the-market deal for a duplex. That's a phenomenal return. And like, so there's gold in that.
Right.
So keep doing that. And I would just say, like, make sure you align yourself with people that can actually pull the trigger and know what they're doing, because they're like, they can make decisions quickly, and they're like, actually, that is a good deal, whether it's on, off the market, or however it came to me.
Yeah, I think that's my problem right now. Like, I have a couple investors, like, in my notes right now, I have like a list of like 20 investors, right? But only a couple of them are serious, where they'll like, I'll send them deals, and some of them don't even text me back. Like, I don't take it personal, but like my main investor right now, he picked up a deal, but now he's working on that deal. He can't pick up any more deals, So like, I don't want to just rely on him to get paid. Like, so basically that's my problem. Like, I just need more investors. Like, like that's just the thing I've been dealing with right now.
Yeah, we'll talk after.
All right, cool.
we'll buy whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're looking to wholesale, you should get a huge cash buyers list. Like, I think 20 is actually not even what you need to wait for. Like,
Yeah, for
actually
sure.
just send out a deal to a cash buyers list, and they're like 1,200.
Oh shit.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And honestly, like we know, like, so like Four Brothers, Market Pro Homes, like we know all those guys, like, and they are a shotgun approach, right? They're just like, I got a deal, like the one today that they sent out on Russell Road, right? They sent it out as like a ARV of 1.18. We were running numbers. I'm like, dude, that's like a 1.05 house max. So like some of them prey on people, and they're like, they know someone's gonna buy it, and we have bought a couple of their homes. Like honestly, personally, Corey and I have bought probably 20 of their homes over the last 6 years. And sometimes when you get to the settlement table, we're like, all right, we're projecting 80 grand at the end of the day, taking the risk, holding this for 6 months. And you look at it and they made a $50,000 or $100,000 rip on us. And I'm like, shit, all right, good for you guys. But whatever you made really doesn't matter, because I ran my numbers and this is what I'm gonna make, right? Hopefully, Lord willing. But I think, like, to that point, like, I think having a bigger buyer pool like them is very important. We have that approach, but we also have the approach of, we have 10 people that will buy up to $2 million sight unseen if we tell them it's a good deal. They don't need to see it. We'll send them the comps. We'll send them our pro forma, and we will send them the video of our walkthrough of the house, and they'll sign a blank check. That's what you want.
Yeah.
100%.
For sure.
Because then you know you can move anything and everything, you know. And then if that doesn't hit, then you want to go to the suckers that will pay for it, but then they might lose 40, 50 grand a pop. Because if your people that know what they're doing aren't buying it, then go to the masses.
Right.
But if you can have a tight inner circle of, like, if I find a deal and I know Sean will buy it, and if I pass on it for whatever reason, and then your other people pass on it for whatever reason, then it's clearly not a good deal, but somebody might buy it. Like, there's a lot of people, man, the HGTV phenomenon, everybody wants to be a flipper. Fact. Not everybody knows the market, and some of the best deals are the deals we have walked away from. Like, we bid pretty much on everything that's on the market and on half the stuff that's off the market. And we start seeing, like, what? This went for this? And then I track it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna track this when it comes back on the market, because I know there's no way they're doing their construction for cheaper than we are. We are an agent who is paying ourselves the commission, so that's padded. And then their time frame's not gonna be any quicker. And then you see it and you're like, they didn't even hit the number we were looking for, plus they incurred all those other costs. They got crushed. So that's a beautiful thing too, because people start weeding themselves out, and then there's less competition. But that's what happened. We got into the market back in 2007. I graduated college in 2007, got into it. I went to work for a huge team. We were selling 500, 600 houses a year as traditional real estate agents. And Corey and I told them in 2008, you guys need to start flipping houses. And they're like, we've never done it. We just sell houses. And then we're like, all right, well, if you guys don't want to do it, we'll figure it out. I had a client that owned a government contracting company, and we helped him flip 18 homes between 2008 and 2010. So 24-month process. Corey and I were not making any money on it because, like, the way our splits were on the team, and we couldn't get profits. But it was like, the school of hard knocks. Like, I'm gonna figure this out with somebody else's money. He made $1.2 million passively because we found the deal, had the contractor do it, managed the contractor, and then we sold it for him. I was making like $3,500 a deal, and he was making 120, just sitting in his office in DC. But I was like, all right, but we're figuring this out. Like, I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing that I'm on the wrong side of the table here. However, like, it was great because, like, I got to see it, and I was like, this is how it works. And then it just continues to scale from that perspective. So I think that's just one of those things where it's like, make sure you have the right buyers and you're kind of partnering. And again, like, that's why we do this. That's why we do this. I wouldn't be here if we weren't trying to, like, how can we all win together? Like, we can help you win, we can help you win, we can help everybody win, and hopefully you can help me win. Like that's why we do these meetings, because there's not a lot of people that truly understand the investing world. And I'll be honest, having been in the investing game since 2007 to now, was that 16 years or so? And Lord willing, we're not going anywhere for a long time, but it's a very, very small world. I mean, the builder world and the renovation world is different. Like, but still, you can spec homes, you can do whatever. Not everyone's doing that, but like from the flipping type of world, there's like 20-ish players that are doing 80% of the business, 100%. And I know all of them by a first name basis, and we're competing on all of the same homes. So,
when you get into the actual guts of it,
dude, 100%.
Yeah.
There's not many people that are flipping 20, 30, 40 homes a year.
Right.
I mean, you have your ones and twos, right? I got a good deal, I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna do it.
No.
But the ones that are doing like volume, there's not many. And that's where you want, those are the people that you want on your buyers list, where you're like, do you want it? No. Do you want, and that's what we have. Like, if we don't want it, or we're at capacity, we don't have unlimited bankroll, right? So we can do 10 at a time, we can't do 50 at a time. So if we're at our capacity and we're like, this is a good deal, somebody needs to do this, we'll go to our 1A, 1B, 1C, and just go down the line until somebody buys it. And if not, we'll blast it out to everybody, and then somebody takes it, and then it's like, well, we don't know you, so good luck. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Would you say about half or more of your deals with that investor long ago were open market?
Oh man,
Yeah.
back then, like that
Yeah.
was like the foreclosure boom. I would say probably 10 out of 10 were on the market.
Okay.
No one was buying them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
all of those were on market, and that's
A lot
where.
of sitting dogs, kind of.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's, and that was like certainly a different market where banks just started wanting to offload them. But then that transitioned to 2012, 13, 14, where when homes, because like the market started recovering, right? So homes were selling, like the good homes would sell within 30 to 60 days. Now good homes are selling within 3 days, 72 hours, you got multiple offers. But those homes that would sit for 10, 21, 40 days on the market, we were writing offers that were $200,000 below asking price.
Oh, yeah.
And we would get an offer, they wouldn't, bless you, they wouldn't accept it, but they would counter us at 150 below asking price. And we're like, oh,
That's still, right.
yeah, we'll take it,
Yeah.
because it was a great deal. Like, we were just underwriting them very, very aggressively and just like broadcasting offers. Yeah.
I guess for the ones that didn't, like, a couple that didn't go so well, I guess, like, what is your, stop loss, so to speak, in terms of, or like, how do you know when to kind of say enough is enough?
Just cut date. Man, so I'll be honest, prior to last year, we had never lost money on 253 flips. Now at 255, we bought 2 homes in April last year when rates were still at 3%. We bought one down near Mount Vernon on Londonderry. We bought it for $675, and we were projecting a $950 sales price based on comps. Rates went from 3 to 7.25, and then the comps around us, everyone just started dropping prices, and the one directly across the street crushed us. It was a divorce situation. They hate each other. It was a bigger home, and they just floored it. So instead of selling for $950, we sold for $860, and it took us longer, and we held it for longer. So we lost $94,000 on that deal. That by far is our biggest loss. And then we had lost $6,000 on another one at that same time. So we started off in the hole $100,000 in January in our flipping company. Now, the homes that we bought in the fall, when everyone was scared, because that's when we were selling those and rates had already risen, we just started writing aggressively, and we were basically underwriting deals at 5% less on the outsell than what homes were selling for today. And we were underwriting our construction at 10% more than what we thought, and 20% more on a holding time frame than what we thought. Now we recently just had our best 2 deals that we have ever had in 255 that we bought in the fall and sold in the spring. So like that, you know, absorbed the loss and more than made up for it. So I think, you know, the one thing that I have learned personally is just like, it is a volume game. It's a volume game, and, you know, never be scared to buy the right piece of real estate, to be honest, and have an exit strategy though too. What's the worst case? We could rent it. Worst case is we could just rent it out and hold it until the market turns. But I think having an exit strategy is important. And then for us, it was just more like, we got to stop the bleeding. And I'm someone, having gone through a divorce that cost me a decent amount of money, like I was like, I'm okay taking a loss to move on, and like then let's take that money, let's recoup what we can and rapidly increase that as much as we can. Where my business partner Corey, he hates taking losses. He doesn't want to lose anything. And he was like, I'm gonna keep this, we should keep this and rent it. I'm like, you can keep it and rent it. We're losing 96 grand. I will give you $48,000 and you can keep it. I don't want to keep this dog. I want to move on, and I want to get my money working elsewhere.
I was trying to.
Yeah.
Going back to what we were talking about earlier, like with the steps and everything, like when you're contacting the seller or a seller contacts you, you know, kind of when you're vetting the seller and everything like that, asking those questions, are we, or is it typical to make an offer then and there, like over the phone, or would you walk the property first and then kind of check it out and then make the offer based on what you see?
That's a great question. Sometimes we do like to float numbers out there and just be like, hey, not having seen your home based on what you've described, we're kind of thinking we'd be in this range. What do you think? And let them talk. And they're like, oh, what? That's way too low. Okay. Well, you know, what are you looking for? Or if they're like, you know what, that's actually not far from what we were thinking. So yeah, I think we'd be open to work with that. Hey, I still need to see your home to make sure that like my numbers are right. I'm going off of what you've said, but I need to see it with my own eyes. So like we do like to float numbers over the phone just to gauge where they're at. I think that's smart. Saves you time, and at least it knows you then know what you're walking into.
And question on what he was saying. So, because I remember earlier you said like don't give out a number first. So in that situation, would you say that if you already asked them for their number, or how would you do that?
So if I already asked them and they didn't give a number?
No, like let's say you haven't even asked them what number they're comfortable with, right?
Yep.
And then you was talking about just gauging a number and saying like, okay, after everything you told us, like we're thinking around this number. Would you say that without getting their number first, or no?
I always like their number first, but if they're not saying that and then they press it, I'm not scared to float something out to gauge them.
Gotcha.
And I'm gonna float it out on the low end.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'll definitely float that out there.
Cool.
Where it's like, hey, all right, well, you guys, you know, clearly it sounds like you guys don't know exactly what you want or what you think it's worth. Based off what you're telling me and the numbers that I'm seeing, here's the range of what I think we would be around. What do you think? And then ask that open-ended question to then gauge their response and take it from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Alright, cool.
totally. Anybody? Yeah.
So what do you find different between like selling over the phone and like selling in person? Like how, I mean, for me speaking, just like selling over the phone is a lot more difficult than obviously selling in person.
Yeah.
So like, how do you like, I guess, go past that, build that trust?
I mean, I think it's like the questions we ask, right? Definitely matter. I much prefer selling in person.
Yeah.
I'd rather look you eye to eye and be like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like, honestly, like somebody telling me something is different as opposed to them walking me through their basement or their upper level where there's a leak and you're like, and you look at them, you're like, see that? And they're like, yeah, I know. Yeah, all right. Like, it's like, I much prefer to sell in person. I will sell as best as I can over the phone, but it in my opinion, it doesn't have the as good of a hit rate. You know, it at least gets the conversation going, but I will never say, I mean, we have bought homes sight unseen, for sure, but I would not recommend that. Like, you never know what you're walking into. So I would float those numbers and then say, I need to meet you at the house, or do you have a combo box that I can walk through it and see it for myself, and then I can get you a very precise number on what we can do. Yeah, yeah.
So you're spending a lot of time in Maryland these days?
We're spending more, yeah.
Yeah.
We're spending more than we have in the past, for sure. Yep, yeah. I mean, we'll go wherever the deals are.
Mhm.
Our crews don't like it, but, you know, they'll go. They're still getting paid. Yeah.
But you don't work with contractors like more local to Maryland, like the Virginia ones will go out there?
I mean, we have like 3 main crews that we work with that are licensed in all 3 jurisdictions, and they kind of, you know, we allocate them based on the size and scope of the job, and, you know, sometimes geographically speaking, but they'll, you know, and if we have people that we can call on if it's way out of our, you know, target market, but we try to really keep it somewhat close. We don't want to go too far. Yeah. Well, we will go ahead and break so we can spend a little bit of time before they kick us out of here just to network. I appreciate you all coming, and obviously we'll be here next month. But if anybody has any questions or anything, like, for the record, we are an open book. So, like, we're all about making relationships. And if there's anything that we can do for you all, please, like, let us know, like, seriously. And we'd love to be a resource of whatever that can be. If you guys have deals, you know, happy to be a second pair of eyes. We, just so you guys know, we never, ever, ever cut anybody out. People bring us deals all the time. They're like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't go to the seller and lock it up. I tell them how we would play it, and then we help them, like, dispose of it. So just so you know, like, we want to be a resource for you guys. But yeah, thanks for coming.
Thanks.